This video is a continuation of the last one, and we're gonna get into something more specific. So we want to create an application which would be the beginning of a risk management system, and we start with the user management component. So the user component management is where we would create new users, user groups, and for each user or user group, we would define a set of parameters, risk parameters, which will then be used by the risk engine to verify that the position is not too risky. So that's of course related to a trading application where the users will be dealers or desks, and they would be able to trade on the market, but up to a certain extent. So we don't want the firm to be taken to risky position, meaning, for example, to buying or selling too many stocks or shares of a particular stock. So the system would be interfaced with a trading application, which would keep track of the position, so the portfolio, and the risk component will evaluate based on the position taken whether it fits the limits that the company has established. So this application here will define which entities are able to deal, and what are the limits that we want established. So it's a typical 3T application. So you will have a database where we will store the information or the data. Then a backend where multiple front ends can connect. So the backend is where the business logic will be, and the front end would many front ends will connect to the same backend, and the backend will use the database for persistence. So relatively to let's say a normal application between quotes, such application is a bit different in the sense that since the model is not the front end, it's not an application per se. The application only behaves as a viewer or as a control panel, and all the logic is in the backend and the database. So what it means is that whenever something changes, for example, you add a user or you change some limit, it may be changed by an external component, by another instance of your application. So you cannot rely on the fact that the application knows everything. There may be changes basically done outside of its control, and for that reason, it's more difficult to reason in terms of state, since the state is not is external. So what it means also is that the application will not directly infer anything about the model. So what it will do is based on user input, send commands or requests to the backend. The backend will verify these requests and try to execute them. If it's successful, it will update the model both internally in the backend and in the database, and then publish the results out to the different front ends. So with an architecture like that, you can have multiple front ends instantiated running at the same time, and if one user makes a modification, immediately the other users will be able to see it. Right, so they can see, for example, new users popping up in their viewer, or limits being changed. But that also means that when the user makes a modification, he may make a modification that it conflicts with another one, another user modifications. For example, he edits some settings on the screen, but before he can upload that to the backend, some other user has already done so on the same same limit. So what to do then in that case? The usual way to do that is to do optimistic locking, which means that as long as your modifications are based on an object that hasn't been modified, then it's fine to change it. But as soon as the underlying object has been modified by another user, then the second user modification will be rejected. So to keep track of that, every component or every object, external object in the backend will need to be version stamped. So it should have a number, which is basically a counter of how many times this object has been modified. And whenever a user wants to modify an object, we will keep track of what was the version at the beginning of the modification. So the modification is like a transaction. Before you're able to change something, you have to request that you're starting to change that object, right? So that we can the system can keep track of the version number of that object when the modification began. And then the user edits fields, and when he presses OK to upload the changes to the backend, if we see that the version has changed in the backend, then we will reject these modifications. So that may be a bit annoying to the user if there's a lot of people working simultaneously, because then obviously the chances of having a change rejected are getting higher, meaning that you may be in a situation where you're never able to commit anything because you commit, it fails, somebody has changed it, so you retry, but then it fails again, and because somebody else has changed it, and so on and so forth, and you get very frustrated. In practice, if the system is not completely global, where users cannot communicate, this rarely happens, because one user can simply go and talk to the other one and say, okay, I'm modifying this particular user, please let me do it. But another way to do it is to use pessimistic locking, in which case whenever a user decides to modify an element, the element is locked. Other users are not able to modify it. So only one person can work on an object at a given time, because the first guy will grab the lock, and then other people will be blocked, will be locked out. Unfortunately, there's a price to that. The price is of course that the locking prevents concurrent modification, not concurrent, but cooperative usage. Right? So if people want to do modifications on the same object, they really have to organize themselves. And if, for example, somebody locks the object and then goes out for a long period of time, nobody else can modify the objects in the meantime. Right? The worst case, for example, is if he goes on vacation and the object stays locked for weeks. In which case, usually systems have a way to forcefully unlock an object, usually through an administration panel. But that's not the solution we are using now. This is going to be a cooperative locking. And in fact, this is usually harder to implement, because you have to keep track of version numbers, transaction numbers, whereas if you use pessimistic locking, it's just who has a lock, and if there's a lock, who has a lock. Right. Okay, so that being said, a little bit of design. This is going to be just for the moment the administration panel. So we are going to set the user base, the groups, and the limits. And typically for this kind of application, you have one window with two panels. The left one would have a tree because users belong to groups. Groups can belong to other groups, and so on and so forth, up to the arbitrary name root group. So the root of the tree. In this system, we'll say that users cannot belong to more than one group. So that simplify things, and we can use normal tree structure to organize our users and groups. And on the right side, we would have a grid, a table, which would contain for that particular selected group of user all the settings that are related to him. So that's like first shot at our data model, our system. It may not be the final one or the most appropriate one even now, because most likely what would happen is that risk parameters, they are not flat. They are also organized as a hierarchy, because you don't want to specify all the risk parameters for every market, for every symbol, and so on and so forth. So what you can end up doing is having default values, for example, a limit based on amount of dollars on a particular position. Then you break it down per market, per instrument, maybe by instrument type, and so on and so forth, right? So it's not like you're gonna say, okay, these guys, IBM would be 1 million, but Microsoft would be 1.5 million. Right? It usually is like $1 million for everybody, and 100 million for the total, something like that. Okay, so our system for the limits should be more advanced than having just flat key value pairs, but this is something we can enhance based on user requirements easily later. Okay, so we focus on the computer organization aspects, say, of the application, and the data model and business model will be done later, because for this application it's really simple. We start even doing the calculation of the position, the risk limits. It's just a management tool, I would say, where you can define and update, add, delete settings. Right? So it's more like a control panel, and it doesn't really matter what settings you are really controlling. Right? Okay, so that said, we start based on what we have done earlier. So we have had a main window and two panels, right? So let's start the application we had. Yeah, so the same thing we had earlier, big panel, and we're gonna customize that. So this is gonna be a top-down approach where we start with the front end, and we'll build things little by little. Usually with a mock for the backend. We're probably gonna have some data model early on so that we can get started with something that we can reuse later for the backend. But it's gonna be front end first. Then once it's getting fleshed out, we can switch to the backend. Then go back to the front end to polish things up, then back to the back end to do the persistence, and hopefully that will be over. So this is also an application I haven't written, so this is also work in progress, and very much like a video log of development. And obviously that means there will be mistakes, there will be things I have to look up, so I would pause the video for that. But preferably there are mistakes, they will be recorded, and we'll probably have to go back and change things, update the code accordingly, right? But hopefully this is not going to be too difficult to do, and let's get started then. Alright, so for the application we have earlier, which the main, this has a main window and these two panels, we first need to rearrange these panels. We want left and a right pane, change the names a little bit, and then that's it, right? So let's close this. So panel, close this. Okay, we had some breakpoints that need to remove. Alright. So we had a panel which are vertical, so we want them horizontal instead. Okay, the height is not meaningful anymore, but now it's the width. Right, and something a bit bigger than that. So let's say 400. 400 should be, yeah, should be about okay for a tree. Now the names are not good, so let's say let's call this user panel, and this one is the settings panel. Okay, so the name is not same here. Let's change these guys. These guys are user panel. User panel, and there has nothing inside. Back to nothing. And this is user panel, and user panel. And let's change the name here. User panel. And this one is settings panel. So remove everything from the grid here. Change the name to settings panel. Settings panel is the name here. And I change the code behind. So this code behind has really nothing, it's just standard, but still needs to be changed. Then in the main guy, this is correct, but the code behind has to be changed. So this is user panel. Should name that guy. And this is settings panel. Okay. Alright, so we feel good about this. Then try the compilation. Oops, errors. Alright, user panel does not exist in the space. Well, it should exist if I compile it. So, blah blah blah. Alright, so the code behind isn't compiled, right? So if the code behind is the view model doesn't compile, then obviously the view wouldn't compile. So we should need to fix first the view model. Make sure that that compiles, and then we can run the rest. Here, panel 1 does not exist, obviously. User panel and settings panel. Okay. Okay, so we have our two panels and then blank. Okay, so that's good. I don't need any of this code, so I will remove that. And same thing here. And therefore, the bindings should be removed as well. Oh, they're already removed. So this should still work, or not. What's going on here? Oh, it's not disposable anymore. Alright, so this is not going to do anything then, at least for the moment. Okay, so now we're gonna put a tree in the first guy and a grid in the second panel. So user panel, we want a grid, we want a tree, and there should be around here. Grid, tree list view. Clicks, it adds the tree and it updates the dependencies. So now I go to the settings panels. where I want a grid and I want a table grid. Alright, so start to see that in effect. Oh, still nothing. Okay, why? User control, a new one. Alright, so usually when this happens, you look at the bindings and see why the bindings didn't work. And that's because user panel and settings panel do not exist in the main window. So that's because I didn't rename these guys. Then let's call this guy user panel, and this guy settings panel. Okay, so I'm usually quite laid back when it comes to development, and I don't fret too much about avoiding every compilation error and whatnot. Alright, so yeah, this is about what we want. We want to work with something inside, right? A ribbon would be nice. Let's add a ribbon. Okay, a ribbon. So for the ribbon, the main ribbon will be in the main window, and it's okay. How do we put the ribbon? Okay, you should go to the so maybe the ribbon can be put with the toolbox. Ribbon something, ribbon, about that. No, it should be here, ribbon control. Alright, so let's drag this guy and try put it up there. Alright, what happened? Add the ribbon control be defined with the bar manager control. Okay, there you go, bar manager. Alright, so we now have a bar manager here, and then a ribbon guy, with no, and yeah, it's a ribbon with no comments. But that's what we want so far. Just gonna reserve some space basically for the toolbar, and then later put something in it. So the problem here is that the ribbon is taking room over the panels. That's probably because of poor organization of the objects. So we want these two guys to be inside the dock panel. Alright, that's it. Let's press the button, start, make sure that everything is still working. Alright, that's about right. Okay, now we're gonna do the a bit of work on the data model, and for that, since we want something that can be exchanged with the backend, which is not going to be in C# in Clojure, we need something that can exchange with well, different languages. So there are various strategies for that. There's a few serialization formats that are interoperational with non.NET languages. You have Thrift, Protobuffer, Avro, JSON, XML, and we want something relatively simple, yet structured. And I usually use Protobuffer because it's in my opinion the simplest one. So we're gonna do that. Let's create a Protobuffer file. So Protobuffer files, I usually store them in the backend project. So this is a Frontend project, What's the location of that guy? Where's this file? Blah blah blah. Come on, tell me where are you? Experimental. Okay, so let's go to experimental, and we are test WPF. Tell one name. Well, what can we do now? Let's create a test backend. Right. Actually no. Test backend. Bye bye. Let's do line new test backend. Right. That creates an empty project, Clojure project. No, I don't want that. So let's call it line new test BE. Then what about with the dash? Dash okay? Okay, dash is okay. So test BE, and this should be inside proto directory. Proto directory. And now there we can create a file. Move to a new instance. How come I can't do a move to a new instance? 1 second. Okay, so this is gonna be our protobuf file. So save as the experimental slash, come on, slash test B slash resources protobuf, and then okay, so it's called this risk not proto. Alright, so this is a protobuffer file, so it starts with a package definition. Well, it's called test, so let's call test.data. Okay, and the only object we have is gonna be so far our user guy. Okay, our user guy has a name. It has parent, should be a group. What else? Then it has settings. Right. Well, I'm wondering if I should have a group as a user, like the same as a user, or have a different type for that. So when you have a group, you're gonna have users inside. Do you need to know which users you have? Not necessarily. I don't think we do actually. So if hopefully we're always gonna navigate bottom up. Well, we're gonna leave it blank then. Basically, the question is whether we're gonna have this as a user group, and then require children inside, or if this is enough. Okay, so another thing is that we want names to be unique, so names will be our key. Alright, the types now: string, parent, if this is a user group, and settings would be something we haven't defined. So message settings, and that's gonna be a list of key value pairs. So key value, right? Message key value, where that's gonna be the key, and we have a value. So let's do it string and string. If it's not a value, is not a string, we can always convert it. Both are required, and value may not be required if we want to delete a key. So let's put it optional. We change that later. And then we'll call 1, 1 equal 2, right? Every key, every field should have a unique key, unique integer. So that's good for key values. So settings is key value and key value equal 1, and we have many of them, so it's repeated key values. Okay, and settings should be then used here, right? So this guy is required, and this guy is required. Well, the guy has no parent, it's because it's the top. Okay, in that case, we want nil. Okay, so this guy has to be optional. And settings, well, we actually can ditch this guy and put settings right there. This way we don't have this nesting, this nasty nesting. So it's to repeat it. This way we can call this guy a setting. Move that guy together and have it like that. Repeated settings. Okay, much better actually. Now we copy these guys. Copy keys. Okay. Oops, 3. 3. All right. Message blah blah blah. So that should be enough. If we go here, we can do lane proto buff. And that will not work because protobuf is not a task. I need to add that to the project. So this BD project, we basically need so basically we need a plugin for protobuffer, which is this guy here. Alright, so this plugin would allow us to do this. Basically invokes the protobuffer compiler on that particular path, and then I do not have the Maven guy. So if you install this protobuffer properly, you wouldn't have that, but that's because I did not set up the Maven guy. Alright, so Maven guy. I do have a private Maven tree for that, right? For my own machine. So that's the repository where I put protobuffer. There you go. Much better, but something went wrong. Obviously. Package Google protobuf. Oh, all right. After the okay, hold on. I think it's okay. So what we were missing here was this dependency. Otherwise, it can't compile, right? Actually, the generation of the Java file was okay. So the protobuffer file was fine from syntax point of view, but without the dependency, the Clojure project couldn't compile. So it was this line. So we come back to that later, but it's good to fix it anyways now. Alternatively, instead of using a plugin, you can download the protobuffer Java compiler, and it will also take care of that on the command line. Basically, it runs this. You can rerun this command here. So that covers the backend side, but we're not really interested with the backend at the moment. What we want is actually the front end C# serializers, right? So we have also a C# generator, protobuffer C# guy, right? And I think I installed protobuf C#. No, linear. It's protogen, and it should be applied on the proto file. So we're wrong place. Resources proto, and it was called risk.proto. Alright, so that generated this risk.cs that I will copy. Of course, the script would be much better than all this, but we'll do that maybe later if we have too many of these things to do, these copies to do. In the meantime, I do not have a project for that. So I said last time that usually it's 3 projects, and the third project is a serializer. So that's gonna be new project, C# library, also under test WPF, and it's called test serializers. Okay, there's nothing in there. References, we need to add the Google protobuffer guys. So I think these are this one and this one. Right? This is coming from wherever you took C# port protobuffer. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. This guy I think needs it too. The same libraries. Okay, and then we will include the file. So copy this file over to test WPF test serializer. Okay, and then we can add this as a existing item. Okay, and it should compile. Yeah, and now add this serializer as a dependency. Solution test serializer. Okay. All right. So now we have access to the classes that were generated in our risk.proto file, right? With settings and user group. All right. So these guys usually don't have to look at how it's implemented, because we are actually interested in their builders, in a way how to build and serialize them. Right, so we assume that it's gonna come for the backend, but we need to mock them for the time being, right? So I'm gonna create a file for that, a new item. Let's say let's call it mockb, and move that up. All right, so that's gonna be a service anyways. Save. So what we want here is some sample data. Okay, so let's call users some collection of users. So array and array. Okay, so user, we have to open what was the test something? No, test.data, I think. Yeah. And now we do first user.user group dot create builder. It's big verbose though. Let's just set. Okay, set. There's a name. It's gonna be the first group. Let's call this group equity desk. Okay. What was the model? Equity desk, and it has settings. Well, okay, and then set settings. Here you also want a list. It's going to be pretty tricky to do that this way. Well, maybe we can. So we want a list in there, and the list of settings. So settings dot create builder, and some set what. Wow, it's getting very confused by my syntax. should do one at a time. Okay, let's settings, equity, let's settings. It's an array, right? So this one gonna have IntelliSense for this. Set key, total value, for example, and set value. Okay, let's go to your limit, and then build. Let's create one setting. Now we create another setting. Copy this guy. Set. Okay. Short limit. Short. So that's the limit of how much you can sell without having actually the stock in hand. So short. This. Okay. The values are completely weird. So that's a list of settings, an array of settings. So that can be set directly into here. Okay, and I'll need that then. And how to build, right? Okay, so that's we have. Whoops, what's going on here? Set settings takes 2 arguments. Really? Oh, okay, setting. No? Okay, why 2 arguments? Okay, let's see. User group. Set setting. Shows in the builder. Set parent. Oh, need a size? No. Oh, this is need a position. Can't add the whole thing in one shot. Well, what if I want to? Add range settings, probably this guy. Alright, let's try that. Add range settings. Bye bye. Add range setting. Okay, so that's one. And we probably want second one, at least for as a child of this guy. Let's call this guy Joe, and he has a parent. The parent is the equity desk. Okay, and let's say set parent. There's a nice set parent. Oh, come on. What's the problem here? Oh, user group. I'm pretty sorry about that. Has to be a user group, which is this guy. So I cannot do it this way. Alright. Sorry. How to be done as a list of user group. Okay. What's the problem here? Okay, you don't know what it is. Fair enough. Open system, collection, generic. Should be better now. Okay. Now you add the first one. And the first one is this guy. Okay. Now you can add the second one. Because that refers to this one. Because that, remove that. Looks better like that. Okay. And because then I can use that by position. users item 0. Come on, yeah, item 0, and that's 2 users. Okay, we'll set equity settings. Well, settings I don't really need to have more than one set. I can always do that later because I'm gonna focus on the user part first. So I want more users though. So another, let's call this one Alice. And this guy is Bob. Standard names. That's 2 groups. There are 2 users, 1 group, and let's do another group. Let's call this agency desk, and have another user in it. I use open Charlie, and Charlie belongs to this one. So it's going to be early, but 0, 1, 2, and 3 is the third one. So it's going to be 3 here. Okay. So that should work. This is our mock data. Nothing fancy. Alright, and we want to show this to the screen, right? So we have to bind these users. So currently we will bind it quite from the model. So the model will have users. So there's going to be a function called get users, and which currently just returns the mockb dot users. Right. So that guy is basically returning a list of users, and we're gonna bind this on the screen on the user panel. Member x dot users with get equal open model. Where's the model? Get users. Okay. That's not very good because this is all static, and if the users change, this guy would not know about it. But that's for seeing something on the screen. And then we need to bind this here. So I don't want any smartness here, but I want a item source to be binding to users. I guess, yeah. And then I want to generate the columns. So beneath the view, I want grid column, grid control dot columns. Okay, and then xg grid column. Yep. Field name. Basically, the field I want to show is the name. Build it up with the name. Let's check that. Yeah, name, and that's it for the moment. There's the name. Okay. Okay. So after that, we want to show it as a view, right? As a tree, right? So so somehow link with the parent, but just want to see something at the moment. Alright, so we have all our guys, and there are 5 of them are here. So the stuff was created properly. No errors in the console. Okay, so that's good. Stop that, and now let's organize that as a tree, right? So to link it as a tree, you need to specify which key is the parent key, basically. So that's first something to do with the tree list view. Okay. Alright, I think it's the key field name. Yeah, key field name. So we don't want to show total summary. We want to see what's the key field. The key field is the name, and the parent field is I think it's parent. Well, so it should be simple as that. Oh, parent is itself a user group. So let me see if it understands parent dot parent name. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty impressive if it works. Well, that didn't work. Blah blah blah. Part content visibility. Yeah, that didn't work. Okay, let's see if parent will just work. Is it parent? It's parent, right? Parent, yep. Alright. Okay, if you're not working. So this is the first time, at least here now, in this project, that we need to adapt the model with the view model. Right? The view model expects a different layout of the object in the tree, and this is actually its role, right? To lay in between, to stay in between the view model, to stay in between the model and the view, and do some transformation of the data so that it's presentable. So here, what we have is that the parent is a user group, so a reference to a user group where it actually should be the key, so just the name of the parent, not the whole object. So not too bad. But we should do is we can't use get users directly, so we need a intermediate class that we can bind to the to the view. And what we had was user. Okay, so user, let's call it user list item, and then it's a name, right? And it's a parent. That's what we wanted to show, right? So we're gonna have this bound instead of the other guy, right? So this dude should return a list of user item, right? So therefore I need also to import the namespace, and then get users won't work anymore, right? So we want actually our own list of users, and that's gonna be that guy. And you can use users. Alright, so this type of annotation is pretty much useless. Alright, and what we want to do is call get users, which return a list, and then map the stuff into this user list item format. So it's a map function. So it and it takes a delegate, right? So going from a user to the other user. So you should be get users. What's the problem here? Oh, we need a do. Okay, get users is a user group, right? This is going to be a user group, and we want a project. The name as u.name, I believe, and then the parent as u.parent.name. Okay, so that wouldn't work if the guy is null. So, but at the moment I want to fix the syntax errors. this, but given what? Okay, let's do an ignore at the end. Let's do this. Let users no, let users equal this, and then ignore, so that I want to make sure that it's not because of some type result missing. So it was because of that. So this guy is a sequence of user items, which is good because that's settable to users, right? So I can do users at range that, and then everybody should be happy. Yeah, right. So this ignore is not needed. And here the only problem remaining is that if parent is no, then it's gonna blow up, right? So you parent, I need a test. If you parent, then this, else no. You parent is not no, right? And then so you parent not no, then we go to the users, and then that's it. Let's try this now. All right, so now it's collapsed into a tree. All right, that's good. And actually want everything expanded by default, so I can see. So that's easy. I should go here and say that it must be property on the view. Auto something. Auto. There you go. Beautiful. Auto expand all nodes. What? Oh, sorry. That's not XML. Alright. So we have done this. And the second thing we want to do is start to have buttons where you can add or edit the guy. So actually I think we did a third panel. What the flow would be is that you click on this guy, you should show the properties here. If you want to change this, you click on there should be also the option to edit that, but we want to do optimistic locking, right? So there should be a way to say that you're starting to edit and then you end editing, and when you end editing it will send this back to the backend. So I think there's an event that's raised when you do begin edit, so we need to catch that, because then we have to notify the backend that we are starting to edit that. Well, we need to fetch the version number at that moment, so we're missing the version number, by the way. Then we change the value and then we send it back. So I think we can do that in place, because when we end the editing, there's even that is triggered, so and the frontend can catch that. So from UI perspective, I think that's pretty much it, except that we want to be able to change the stuff here, right? Such as changing the name of a user or of a group. Let's start with that, actually implement that functionality. Then we can work on adding and removing entries. So to add and remove, we would have a button up there. Add, remove. This would insert a new line below. And then we can go and edit the entry. So the line would be actually, the name would be some like new user, new group, provided by the backend. Pretty much like Visual File Explorer. And here's will be easier well, not easier, but same actually. Instead of having a tree, though, we're gonna have a list view, and hopefully we're gonna reuse the same code mostly between the two. All right, so okay, so I'm gonna stop, take a break on a moment, and then we'll proceed with working on editing these entries. Okay, all right, that's it then for now.